Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Megha Sharma. The 20th July incidents have raised serious questions of police accountability. Today, a shocker has come from Bihar, where a police personnel in Bihar's Siwan area can be seen running with an AK-47 and firing it. The Bihar district magistrate says that there were no orders to open fire. No deaths have been reported. 5 clear overreaches need to be answered. The Delhi police official who was seen slapping a woman protester was removed from the protest. Is that action enough? The police being in civil clothes during the lathi charge, while law allows police officials to be in civilian clothes during surveillance of or intelligence gathering, but visible identification is needed in such situations. The Rapid Action Force woman personnel who was seen on video without a name tag. We have seen all the videos of the police personnel with the AK-47 rifle. The Supreme Court today has clearly observed that there is a right to peaceful and lawful protest guaranteed under Constitution. The police claim that the protesters on 20th of July were not peaceful in defense. They claim videos of cops being attacked, pepper spray trigger, and even women cops being injured. So how do we fix accountability here? Did the police fail in controlling the situation on 20th of July? What went wrong in Delhi and in Bihar, and how do we fix this? I'm getting more information right now that the Bihar Police Headquarters has now issued a clarification on the Saturday incident in Siwan, the firing incident during a bandh that was called across the state of Bihar. Constable Abhishek Kumar fired 4 rounds in the air after being surrounded by protesters to protect the lives and government property. The police said that no one in the crowd at the firing spot was injured. The constable has been suspended with immediate effect and the departmental proceedings have been initiated. The police also clarified that the 3 injured persons were found at locations a kilometer and a half or 2 kilometers away from the firing site. They are out of danger and separate FIRs have been registered based on their statements. I'm being joined by Sanjay Sahai. Sanjay Sahai, what do you make of the situation? There are 2 contrasting statements that are coming in. One, the reports of 3 people, 3 protesters that were injured, 2 of them who were attacked, the bullets grazed their necks. The third one was not so fortunate. He got hurt in the thigh with the bullet that was fired from the AK-47. Now, the Bihar police has released this press release saying that there was no AK-47 shots fired. In fact, all that is being said was that the shots that were fired in the air, because the cop in question was surrounded by protesters who were damaging public property. Whose side do we believe?
It's very difficult to believe either of the sides, and frankly, we have reached a situation where it is a battle between the police and the protesters. And the actual cause is literally lost, which is a battle between people who created the neat mess and the students. So that is broadly where we are. And this clarification regarding AK-47 not being used, I think this clarification should have come much earlier, and it should have been made to the world, known to the world, that AK-47 and pellet guns are not being used for civilian crowd. The actual situation as it stands, that whenever there is a protest which is peaceful,
I'll come back to you. I am also being joined by Advocate Khushbu Jain. Advocate, the question about the legality of carrying AK-47s at a public protest, a civilian protest, this is a question that has been raised by the Congress, by the opposition parties. Why were the cops allowed to carry the AK-47s during the civilian protest?
things. One, AK-47 was not used, and he was carrying a normal firearm which is used for crowd control and a situation of this nature. Now that only the inquiry can prove whether it was AK-47.
But are we also, are the police allowed to carry firearms during a civilian protest? students
Yeah,
who were
police,
protesting, who
they
were
are
out on the
yes,
streets?
they are empowered to carry firearms. They are not empowered to carry weapons which are lethal in nature, in the sense that you are getting AK-47 and all that. That is not used in regular protest
But
and
are they
things of that nature.
justified in using it? Because the justification that the police in Bihar is giving
See,
is
justification is a
because the
different story.
protesters were pelting stones, because the
See,
protesters were
justification,
destroying public property. Is that
justification.
a reason justified enough to shoot at the protesters?
See, justification is another story. As far as carrying firearms is concerned, they are certainly permitted to carry firearms as the provision under the provisions of law. But the force which can be used has to be only commensurate to the violence which is taking place, and in that particular situation, this depending on the video footages which is available in the public domain, it seems that it did not warrant that sort of an action. So that is broadly where we stand.
So
And there is one
what
thing
then,
which is,
as per certain reports, we're getting to know that the superintendent of police was hurt in the protests that were taking place, after which the constable who was his bodyguard opened fire. We take a look at that image, that video, that few seconds video, where at this point in time claims being made that the shots were fired in the air. They're clearly not in the air. They are being targeted, right? The people right in front of him. Again, the dubiousness of whether it was an AK-47 or not is the question. That image that has obviously gone viral is the cop who is carrying that gun looks very much like an AK-47. Of course, there has to be more probe that needs to be done. But
not,
the only question is when in Delhi these protests were taking place, while the police resorted to lathi charge and allegedly pellet guns as well, which is also not the right way to go ahead, also illegal. Why is it that the Bihar police could not tackle the crowd?
I think that the Bihar police will have to explain, but given whatever videos are there in the public domain, certainly it did not warrant the nature of a response which we see out there. There is absolutely no denying the fact. And if SP was injured or something happened of that nature, that does not certainly warrant that you open AK-47 on any firearm. The basic training of the police is to withstand situations of this nature and react in a manner which is required as per the law, which is minimum use of force. Now, the other issues also come into the picture, that the police crowd arrangements, as we see in last so many decades, it's still in the colonial archaic era. So the standard protocol is that large number of policemen with some weapons, some barricading, they are thrown out there. The actual technique of crowd control and crowd management, I think that does not operate in most parts of this country. The job of the police is to facilitate peaceful protest with advanced planning, communication, negotiated routes, and variety of that nature. Even when you see in Delhi, the police waited till the last moment, and the protesters also waited till the last moment to break 163 BNSs, and from there the whole thing started. So it was basically a very steam rolling sort of a situation which was available in Delhi, and the advance warning of the intelligence, what intelligence working, not working. And the crowd, they kept on coming and they kept on coming, and finally it reached a situation where it was. Now the pellet guns is also the same story. Now the pellet guns have been used, and they say that the courts will decide whether it was a pellet gun or not. By the RF and the CRPF, they don't come out in the open and say whether they have used the pellet guns or not. The standard weapons which can be used, it is known to everybody. And if it has been used, let them accept it. If it has not been used, if it is an aberration or wrongly, it has been given to the police personnel, that should all come to light, because this
Okay,
is the way
all
we
right.
learn.
At this point in time, you're talking about whether the police is justified or not. At this point in time, you don't really have a clear stand on whether one side is right or the other. Let me get in Advocate Khushbu Jain as well in the conversation. Khushbu, again, the legality of the police carrying a firearm, attacking protesters who were not armed themselves. There are reports pouring in that there was stone pelting, destruction of public property that was taking place. with the protesters gathering despite a statewide ban that was imposed by the Bihar government. Now, first of all, the question, was the government even justified in imposing a ban when people wanted to come out and protest?
See, the question that comes is justification, non-justification. We cannot see it without knowing the entire facts into it. But on the other side, if you look into it, yes, a healthy legal system does not choose between accountability and fairness. You know, it insists on both, and that accountability and fairness also has to be applied when it comes to power utilized by police, whether it is misused, whether there has been any consequences. There has to be consequences with respect to whether, with respect to inquiry or suspension where justified, or a departmental proceeding, or where, the facts disclose a cognizable offense, a criminal process as well. But see, you will also have to understand that if police has acted lawfully in a difficult crowd control setting, or in a presumption setting that it can require actions to be taken, or it requires preparation to be taken, then that too has to be acknowledged, because the rule of law is not served by
but are you, I mean, how is a firearm being fired, targeted at protesters justified? I mean, whether it's AK-47 or any other firearm, irrespective.
See, I'm not justifying. I'm again saying that we can't see things in silos. When you look into videos, when you look into social media posts, I don't want to take away rights of, I don't want to negate anybody or any situation that has come across. But when you see these facts has to be looked into very microscopic manner by people who are involved in investigation. It cannot be in silos as to one videos or one, reel that comes out, or some part of it comes out. It has to be looked into together. It has to be investigated microscopically.
I cannot understand. At this point in time, you're saying there's another side to the story that also needs to be looked into.
I'm saying
no. That there's another side to the story that also needs to be looked into before making any conclusion
any conclusion that you make? You will have to look into all the sides, and if it has been found that they are guilty, then I think that arbitrariness.
But my question is, irrespective of whether you see the other side or you don't see the other side, there is that few seconds video that is circulating. There is this man, he is a constable, he's brandishing a gun, he's aiming it at the protesters. He has shot a few shots. We can see this. There are 3 people who are injured because of it, without making a statement that, I need to take a look at the other side before making a judgment. Is this right or wrong is all that I'm asking. And if you're still saying that you still need to see the other side of the story to make a statement, is something that surprises me as well. I'm also being joined by Anish Gawande. He is the NCP Sharad Pawar faction spokesperson. Anish Gawande, what do you make of the situation? Of course, the protests in Delhi that became violent, there were reports of lathi charge, there were reports of a woman being slapped by a cop, but there were also reports of these protesters shoving and kicking and hitting a police personnel. There were also reports of these protesters carrying those sprays, the pepper sprays, and spraying it on police's faces. There were reports of women constables and cops who were at the venue and they were injured critically as well. How do you view the situation? How should the government, how should the police personnel, how should the law enforcement authorities handle this situation?
There is absolutely no justification for waving an AK-47, an assault rifle, on the streets of this country. There is no justification for using pellet guns in the national capital after blatantly lying about the fact that you use them. There is also no justification for putting nails onto lathis and beating protesters black and blue with them, often with lathis coming all the way up to the neck, lathis that are not supposed to go above the knee. What has happened across the streets of this country today, and on the 20th of July in particular, is a level of police brutality that must be investigated, with a public apology offered to the people of this country, and a sacking of police officers who are responsible. Sandeep Lamba, who is the police officer who's seen wearing Ray-Ban Meta glasses in complete contravention of any privacy regulations in this country and beating up women, is only told that stay away from Jantar Mantar and kept at his original Northeast Delhi sort of posting. The only thing that happens to a police officer who says 50-50 gram डाल देंगे आपके pocket में, वापस protest मत करो, implying that he's going to plant drugs into the pockets of young protesters in the back of a police van, that man is only suspended. The other, Sachin Sharma, who's the DCP New Delhi, who is responsible for the violence that took place on the streets of the national capital, has no action taken against him. So unless the government begins with accountability itself, it's almost bizarre to expect accountability from protesters.
Yeah,
Anybody who was
Anish,
engaged
I
in
agree I agree to all the points that you've made. There has to be accountability. The brandishing of the alleged AK-47 and the shots that were fired at the protesters is completely unjustifiable. But I would also like you to answer my question and definitely condemn the acts of antisocial elements who were present in the protests that had taken place at Jantar Mantar, where the police were also attacked. I gave you examples, several of them. There are videos as well.
No. 1 second. It is absolutely condemnable if any violence has been used against the police. It is absolutely condemnable if any violence has been used by any member of the crowd against any other member of the crowd. But let's be serious. The CCTV footage is with the Delhi police or with police officials. The responsibility to file cases on these people is with the police officials. Please let them take action. Who is stopping them from taking action? How many people have they taken action against? It's been more than 4 days now. Where are the cases? Why have they not done anything? So, of course, anybody who's attacking a police officer,
there are no cases
because
charged. The Cockroach Janata Party has gone to the union ministers, Jitendra Singh, and they have spoken, and there has been an agreement that they all have come to, that the protesters, there will be no FIRs that are going to be lodged against the protesters. I think it's a fair deal. Both the parties have come to an agreement. Here on, do we not want to meet midway, build a consensus and figure out a solution to the root cause of the problem, which was the paper leaks and education reform and passage of the anti-paper leak bill, which the government has also spoken about. It has been tabled. Today again there was such commotion in the parliament. Discussions could not take place. There is hope, fingers crossed, that there will be better sense prevailing amongst parliamentarians within the opposition to allow for discourse to take place and early passage of this bill. Don't you think?
Absolutely. And we've always maintained from the very first day as the NCP-SP that dialogue is the only way forward. A government that had forgotten to listen was awakened from its slumber by young people who took to the streets of Delhi and spent 36 days camping out at Jantar Mantar until their demands were finally heard. And I hope that the government realizes that in the future, it should not let a situation get so bad that young people who had no intention and no desire of protesting against the government are forced to hit the streets. The dialogue that began 3 days ago should have begun weeks ago. If that had happened, we would not have seen what unfolded on the 20th of July. If that dialogue had taken place earlier, we would have had this discussion in Parliament much earlier as well.
Anish, I also want to ask you this question. How do you see the creation of this task force for education reform that is being led by no other than Nandan Nilekani?
I think it's a welcome move, but unfortunately, these task forces that have been created in the past have not really yielded many solutions. I really hope that any technological processes that are put in place with due care. Let's not forget what happened with the CBSE OSM system when a technological solution was tried to be brought in for a challenge in the education system. Nandan Nilekani is a senior, sort of experienced IT professional, and I'm sure he brings wealth of experience to the table. But this task force must have students in it. It must have teachers in it. It must have educators in it. We must work towards a system that prioritizes the voices of those who know what they're talking about rather than those whose names are the biggest you can attach to a project that you want to see as a flagship project for yourself.
Anish Gawande, thank you very much for speaking to us on NewsX. I'm also being joined by Sachin Barwal. He is the Cockroach Janata Party member. Sachin, thank you very much for speaking to us. Quickly, a response from you with regards to all that has happened, more information that has come forth. Of course, you know, the country is shocked that a cop allegedly used an AK-47 against the protesters. 3 individuals have been injured. The cop since then has been suspended, but questions continue to be asked about the need of an alleged AK-47 or a firearm to be present at this protest site, and more sensitively, more importantly, it was used. Those firearms were shot at the protesters. How do you think the government should handle this? How do you think the law enforcement agencies must tackle it?
मैम मेरी आवाज आ रही है आपको?
हाँ जी, आ रही है, आप बोलिए।
मैम अगर आप हिंदी में बात करेंगे तो मैं अच्छे से इस बात का जवाब दे पाऊंगा।
जी जी सचिन, आपसे सवाल पूछना चाहती हूँ। ये जो आज वो वीडियो, कुछ सेकंड्स की वीडियो वायरल हुई है, ये जो एक पुलिसमैन है जो कि बिहार में है, बिहार में ये प्रोटेस्टर्स के अगेंस्ट बंद बनाया था सब सैटरडे को। उन्होंने अलेजिडली एक AK-47 लेकर प्रोटेस्टर्स पे शूट किया है। क्या ये जस्टिफाइड है? और अगर नहीं है तो क्या एक्शन लेना चाहिए पुलिस द्वारा, बिहार की पुलिस द्वारा और बिहार के चीफ मिनिस्टर द्वारा, हमारे अथॉरिटीज द्वारा?
मैम सबसे पहले मैं बताना चाहूंगा, मैंने भी उस वीडियो को सोशल मीडिया के माध्यम से ही देखा है कि जिसमें AK-47 गन का यूज किया है, जो कि बिल्कुल लोकतंत्र में बिल्कुल गलत है, क्योंकि वो छात्र हैं, वो कोई बाहर से आए हुए आतंकवादी नहीं है, वो पीसफुली अपनी मांग कर रहे हैं। देन सेकंड ये है कि आज ही दोपहर में प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस
तो नहीं कहते हैं, क्योंकि वहां पे हमें रिपोर्ट्स मिल रहे हैं कि प्रॉपर्टी का डिस्ट्रक्शन हुआ था, स्टोन पेल्टिंग हुई थी। पर यहीं पे मैं यही बोलना चाहती हूँ कि क्या मजबूरी थी पुलिस की जो उन्होंने गन शॉट्स फायर कर दिए?
मैम हम भी इस चीज को लेकर बड़ी हैरानी में है, क्योंकि मैं जंतर मंतर पर मौजूद था मैनेजमेंट टीम में, तो मैंने वहां पर सब कुछ देखा है। जैसे कि 20 तारीख को हमारा अनाउंस था, हमारी कॉल थी चलो संसद की, तो उसमें जंतर मंतर के दोनों जो गेट थे, केरला हाउस की तरफ से, एक गुरुद्वारा बांग्ला साहिब की तरफ से, उसमें पहले क्या होती थी कि सभी जो प्रोटेस्टर आ रहे हैं सबकी चेकिंग हुआ करती थी, डिटेक्टर मशीन से भी, और जो हाथ में स्कैनर लेते हैं जो हमारे दिल्ली पुलिस है वो करते थे। लेकिन उस रात से क्या हुआ कि वो सब कुछ बंद कर दिया गया। अब कोई भी आ रहा है जा रहा है, किसी के बैग की कोई चेकिंग नहीं, तो वो भी एक बड़ा सवाल खड़ा करता है वहां पर सुरक्षा व्यवस्था पर, कैसा क्यों किया गया? कितनी भीड़ आ रही है, कोई उसका हिसाब नहीं है, कोई किसी तरह की चेकिंग नहीं है। मैं आता हूँ बिहार पे, मैंने भी उस चीज को देखा है। मैं आपसे लिटरली बताना चाहूंगा, बिहार में तो मैं नहीं था, लेकिन जहां पर मैं था, जो मैंने अपनी आंखों से देखा है, मैं उसके बारे में जवाबदेही ज्यादा रखूंगा। बिहार में क्या व्यवस्था थी क्या नहीं थी, ये आप और हमको वीडियो के माध्यम से और मीडिया के माध्यम से ही पता चल रहा है। अब उसमें मैं कोई ऐसा कमेंट कर दूं कि जो मेरे सामने घटना नहीं हुई है, तो वो मेरे लिए भी ठीक नहीं होगा। लेकिन मेरा बस यही आपसे कहना है कि जो बंदूक का इस्तेमाल हुआ है वो नहीं होना था, और जो हमारी पूरी टीम, जैसे कि हम जो हमारे जंतर मंतर का मंच था, हम उससे बार बार अनाउंस करते थे कि हमें कोई भी ऐसी गतिविधि, कोई भी ऐसी एक्टिविटी, कोई भी ऐसा स्लोगन हमें यूज नहीं करना है कि जिससे किसी की भावनाओं को ठेस पहुंचे या फिर माहौल बिगड़ने की शंका हो। तो हम बार बार भी यही कहते थे, लेकिन बिहार में जो तस्वीरें सामने आई उसको देखकर दिल बहुत आहत है।
वायलेंट हुए हैं, काफी सारे प्रोटेस्टर्स ने गाली गलौज की है, बट आई थिंक दैट इज इनएविटेबल. You cannot control a crowd as massive as that was gathered at Jantar Mantar. पर आपसे एक और बात सचिन मैं पूछना चाहूंगी, आज जो ये बिल टेबल हुआ है, एंटी पेपर लीक अमेंडमेंट बिल, इसको टेबल किया गया गवर्नमेंट द्वारा, पर ऑपोजिशन ने फिर यहाँ पे डिस्कशन नहीं की, डिबेट नहीं की, डिस्कोर्स नहीं किया, पर फिर से वहाँ पे नारे लगाए गए, पार्लियामेंट को फिर से एडजर्न करना पड़ा। उनकी जस्टिफिकेशन ये थी कि वो अकाउंटेबिलिटी चाहते हैं गवर्नमेंट से। ये जो पुलिस एक्शन लिया गया प्रोटेस्टर्स के अगेंस्ट, ये जो अलेजिडली पेलेट गन्स यूज की गई प्रोटेस्टर्स के अगेंस्ट, वो चाहते हैं कि पहले इस बारे में बात हो, उसके बाद कोई बिल पास करे जाएगा। क्या आपको लगता है कि कहीं ये जो काम गवर्नमेंट करना चाह रही है, स्ट्रॉन्ग एक्शन लेना चाह रही है डिफॉल्टर्स के अगेंस्ट, कल्प्रिट्स के अगेंस्ट, जो पेपर लीक करते हैं उनके अगेंस्ट, वो काम स्लो हो जा रहा है क्योंकि ऑपोजिशन, जो मेंबर्स ऑफ पार्लियामेंट में ऑपोजिशन जो बैठी हुई है, वो कहीं ना कहीं इसमें खलल कर रहे हैं?
मैम, मैंने भी आज के जो सदन की जो मैंने कार्रवाई देखी है, उसमें जो विपक्ष है वो इस चीज की मांग कर रहे थे कि दिल्ली में जो घटना हुई है उसकी सीधा जवाबदेही गृह मंत्री की बनती है। तो उनकी मांग ये थी कि गृह मंत्री जी आए और वो सामने से संवाद करें, ये उनका पहली मांग थी। देन दूसरा क्या है कि जो भी प्रोटेस्ट में हुआ है, जिन पर भी केस हुए हैं, पहली बात तो मैंने आपको बताया कि ये मुद्दा सिर्फ 10-20 हजार लोगों का नहीं था, ये मुद्दा पूरे भारत का था। तो संख्या छात्रों की इतनी हो गई थी कि हमारे जंतर मंतर के आसपास जो स्पीकर हम माइक वगैरह यूज कर रहे थे, वो इतनी रेंज तक नहीं जा पा रहे थे। लेकिन फिर भी हमारी टीम मैनेजमेंट ये कोशिश कर रही थी कि जो जंतर मंतर से अलग जो बाहर का जो प्रोटेस्ट, जो छात्रों की भीड़ जो बाहर थी, कि हम उसको भी मैनेज कर सकें। लेकिन आप मुझे एक चीज बताइए, मैं ये नहीं चाहूंगा कि हिंसा का हम बिल्कुल समर्थन नहीं करते हैं। हमने डे 1 से कंडेम किया है इस चीज को कि हम गांधीवादी के रास्ते पर चलेंगे, हिंसा का हम समर्थन नहीं करते। एक चीज मैं ये पूछना चाहूंगा कि जो लोग कह रहे हैं कि प्रोटेस्टर में हिंसा वाले लोग आए थे, आपराधिक लोग आए थे, मैं ये पूछना चाहूंगा उनसे कि राजनीति में, आप भी जानते हैं मैं भी जानता हूं, मैं किसी पार्टी का पक्ष लेकर बिल्कुल नहीं बोलूंगा, राजनीति में कितने ऐसे राजनीतिक नेता हैं जिन पे गंभीर आपराधिक मामले चल रहे हैं। मतलब जो चुनाव लड़ना हो, राजनीति में आना हो, सत्ता पानी हो, तो बिल्कुल चरित्र साफ सुथरा चाहिए। और अगर कोई छात्र आ रहा है अपनी
नहीं
आवाज को
सचिन,
उठाने,
ठीक है, मैंने
तो उस पर
आपकी
तुम कोई
बात
भी आरोप
मानी,
लगा
मैं
दो
उस
कि
बात में डिस्कशन ही नहीं कर रही हूँ, उस बात पे तो मैं डिस्कशन ही नहीं कर रही हूँ। क्या आपको लगता है कि ये जो बिल, अमेंडमेंट बिल पास करना चाहती है गवर्नमेंट, उसमें खलल हो रही है क्योंकि ऑपोजिशन यहाँ पे अटक गई है, बोल रहे हैं कि अमित शाह को आके अपॉलॉजी करनी पड़ेगी, कल कोई दूसरा मुद्दा उठ जाएगा जिसमें वो बोलेंगे अब अमित शाह नहीं, प्रधानमंत्री मोदी को आके अपॉलोजाइज करना चाहिए पार्लियामेंट में, दुनिया देश भर में, उसके बाद ही आगे कुछ बात चलेगी। क्या आपको लगता है ये किस्सा कहीं खत्म हो सकता है?
मैम, ये नौबत नहीं आती, ये किस्सा पहले ही खत्म हो जाता अगर धर्मेंद्र प्रधान जी समय से पहले अपना इस्तीफा दे देते। तो 20 जुलाई को जो हुआ वो हमें देखने को नहीं मिलता। किस तरह की वीडियो है, दोनों तरफ से हुआ, पुलिस के साथ भी कुछ चीजें गलत हुई जो कि नहीं होनी चाहिए थी, और सबसे ज्यादा हमारे छात्रों के साथ गलत हुआ है जो कि नहीं होनी चाहिए थी।
नहीं, मैं
अब
बस
देखिए,
इतना
जैसे
चाहती हूँ
शिक्षा
कितने
मंत्री
लोगों को
धर्मेंद्र
कितने
प्रधान जी
लोगों
हैं,
को
उनकी जवाबदेही
अपॉलोजाइज
शिक्षा
करना
मंत्री
पड़ेगा
थी।
जिसके कारण उसके बाद ये अमेंडमेंट बिल पास हो जाए। मेरा सिंपल एक ये सवाल है, कितने और मिनिस्टर्स, कितने यूनियन मिनिस्टर्स, प्रधानमंत्री, आप बता दीजिए, लिस्ट में निकाल दीजिए कितने लोगों को अपॉलोजाइज करना पड़ेगा ताकि ये अमेंडमेंट बिल टेबल हो सके और पास हो सके?
नहीं मैम, हम तो यही चाहते हैं कि जितना जल्दी हो सके इस पर जवाबदेही तो हो गई है, धर्मेंद्र प्रधान जी का तो
जी।
इस्तीफा आ गया है, लेकिन जल्द से जल्द इस पर ये बिल पास होना चाहिए। अब ये जो हमारे स्पोक पर्सन है, अब वो बैठकर डिसाइड करेंगे, विपक्ष से मांग करेंगे कि अगर कुछ अच्छा हो रहा है तो उसको होने दीजिए। हंगामे की भेंट, देखिए मैं ये भी जानता हूं कि सदन की कार्रवाई अगर स्थगित होती है तो 1 घंटे में करोड़ों रुपए खर्च होते हैं, वो जनता की, आम जनता की जेब से आता है, हमारी और आपकी जेब से आता है। तो मैं ये भी नहीं चाहूंगा कि सदन चले और हंगामा हो और वो
जी।
सदन की कार्रवाई हंगामे की भेंट चढ़ जाए। इससे देश का नुकसान है, भारत का नुकसान है। मैं अपनी टीम से इस बात को रखूंगा कि विपक्ष तक ये बात पहुंचाए कि अगर देश हित में कुछ अच्छा हो रहा है तो विपक्ष इस बात को माने और जो बिल आ रहा है उस बिल का समर्थन दे।
सचिन, हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए बहुत शुक्रिया. I also thank the rest of my guests for joining me on the telecast and sharing your views. I'll take a short break. Thanks for watching.